Welcome to SELINTalks, podcast initiative by SELINClub, where we bring you the inspiring stories of individuals who are making a positive impact in their communities and beyond. Today, we are honored to have Shaista Khan, Director of Education at the United Nations Association of Australia (NSW), and an international development and communication professional. Her passion for the community development and social integration has driven her work in managing public consultations and education projects in England, Australia, and Pakistan. She has also worked on several UN-funded education projects promoting the UN missions in school. As the Director of Education at the United Nations Association of Australia (NSW), Shaista continues to make a difference by promoting humanitarian causes and advocating for the rights of immigrants, refugees, and asylum seekers. Join us as we delve into her journey and learn more about her work in building a better world for everyone. Welcome to SELINTalks, ma'am. How are you?
I am very well, thank you. It's a warm, sunny afternoon here in Sydney.
Yeah, it's very cold here. So,
Okay.
Ma'am, first of all, the first and foremost question that comes from our audience, and our audience would like to know about your journey so far. You've been working with a lot of international groups. You're working on SDGs, and you're working with UN. You're working with a lot of international agendas as well. So, how has your journey been so far? And was this career path actually defined for you?
Well, I was born in Pakistan, and like all South Asian parents, my parents wanted me to be a doctor. So that was the sort of the path that I was, advised to go on. But I'm more of a communicator, a marketing person. I love to interact with people, and I love education, anything to do. I'm very curious, love to learn about different cultures and stuff. So while I have a bachelor's degree in science, but I opted to do my master's in mass communications, in journalism and advertising. And from there on, I just sort of chose my path. I started working with some elite schools in Pakistan, the primary and I mean schools that are affiliated with the Oxford curriculum. And I'm sure you would be aware of that. There are many parallels between India and Pakistan.
Right.
We do have the same kind of, the private school system, the public school system, and all. So anyway, I started teaching in a very elite private school, and but my own passion for humanitarian work got me involved with an NGO, a not-for-profit organization in Karachi. It's called Teachers Resource Center. And that
Right.
was the beginning of my journey of learning about the development world and how development world really works, and how education challenges are met, and what are the challenges on the ground. Because some of us are very privileged to be studying in good schools, have proper homes, and we have a very luxurious life, and we have many amenities of life that many of our fellow citizens do not have, unfortunately. But that by working with that organization, I learned about the public school system in Pakistan. And believe me, it was a big shock for me, because coming from a private school background, I actually grew up in the Middle East. I lived there as a child and studied there. So for me, it was like, literally very, very, it was a bit traumatic, I would say, in the beginning. But it was also a very powerful experience. So I think that is what ignited my spark, because I worked with the teachers on the ground, teachers who were from low-income groups. I was involved in teacher training, whole school development. And this was through programs that were funded by different international agencies, like Save the Children UK and USAID, and UNICEF, UNESCO. So I worked on different projects on the ground in Pakistan. And through that, I learned a lot about education, and I also learned a lot about the United Nations and its goals and its mission. Yeah.
So there are about the events that takes place under the Sustainable Development Goals. How are these events taking place? Is it association with different? As you said, there are a lot of different kids that teachers are involved, schools are involved. So how are these events actually have helping the campaigning of the Sustainable Development Goals?
Um, well, I would say that each school is taking it up differently. So
Okay.
far, our member schools, some have, just taken it as a whole school activity where they have
Okay.
like school presentations, and they have school presentations, they raise funds, they have speeches, and they, raise funds for the UNAA. Other schools have used it with their SRCs, they call them, student representative councils. So,
Okay.
like you have what you call the senior students in schools, um, the houses and everything. So
Right.
we're like school captains. So we have here in Australia, they have student representative councils, and they have these councils represent or take up different causes. So
Right.
last year, one of our schools actually celebrated the Nelson Mandela Day. So it
Ah,
was about, his work for humanity. And they, what they did was they created more booklets. They had a peer sharing exercise where the high school students went and read to the primary school students. So we encourage that to have, sort of peer-to-peer sort of learning.
right.
And they're now looking to build a street library as well. So these are small projects, but, like I said, it takes time to grow. And then
Of
again,
course.
it depends on mainly the teachers, how motivated they are, and how much they can motivate the students as well. Yeah.
Right. The schools and the teachers that you're associated with, before, obviously, there must be some kind of a profile or the subjects and everything. After these development goals are being introduced to them and, spoken about, do you see a shift of mindset altogether somehow?
Well, I would say I think it's a bit too early to assess that. We would love to see that. That's our goal, of course. But we do conduct feedback surveys after every year. So what we do is we send out an invite, we advertise it on our web page, and we send out invites through emails to schools in sort of in our area, to public, private schools, all. And those who accept the invitation, and then they have to register, there's a registration process. Once they
Mm-hmm.
register, we send them the resources and everything. And what we ask them is to just commit to doing an activity that relates to the goals. It
Right.
could, so it's really up to the choice, because like I said, we want to make it easy for the teachers. And at
Yeah.
the end and what we do is we ask them to build that activity as a follow-up to the United Nations Day on 24th of October. So, and after the 24th of October, we ask them to share any samples of their work. And once they
Okay.
do that, we can award them certificates and so on. And then we also have a feedback survey. And what we've seen is that the teachers who have gotten involved, they do say that, students become very passionate when they start discussion about the goals. Like, for
Yeah.
example, in 2021, there was one school, a public school, again, who I think it was grade 5. The students were to build some water filters for a science class. So they were
Right.
making water filters, and and they related it to, you know, um, the different goals, and how because of poverty there's no clean water and those kind of things. And she said that, one of the students actually tasted the water that came out of a really bad filter, or, when it was, and they could empathize. Oh, oh, this is the kind of water that children are drinking in those countries. So it's a small thing to think, but it's a big lesson, again, just that
Yeah.
empathy. So
Yeah.
those are the kind of small stories that we look for, and the
Yeah.
changes in individuals, and hopefully we hope that this can become a bigger change. Yes.
I'm sure. I mean, even doing the smallest of the activities related to all the goals, I think it actually requires a person to actually ponder upon as to what is actually happening around. So they have to put in the efforts, as I think research work also goes into it, to understand what is happening in the world and how can they help
Yeah.
by doing certain projects. So I
Yeah.
think the research, and especially with the younger children, if they try to research, there's so much available, and I think it gives a shift of mindset also, apart from whatever they are doing in the schools every day. What were the works that you have done, especially with the refugees and immigrants all over the place?
Well, I would say that I've not really worked on the ground as such. I would love to if I get the opportunity, but being a sort of a communicated marketing and comms, I've
Yeah,
always written about them or supported in the causes. When I was in the UK, I also taught a subject on contemporary human migration.
wow.
So I was teaching about the refugees, and it was interesting that I was teaching a class of the first year. I think it was first year honors degree, and there were students there. Some of them were migrants, and some were, British born and totally English, and when I talked about them, they were like, when I talk about the refugees and the kind of camps they have to lived in, some of them had no clue, and it didn't really even matter to them. And it's so shocking to me because we seem to be living in a world that's so materialistic, or we are so focused on our own personal goals, whether it's education or a job or whatever. We tend to not look around us and see what's happening until those people actually come and we see them, because in areas now, in many, I lived in London, there's there are different migrants there, but there's
Yeah,
different suburbs where there's a huge refugee population, like Syrians and Afghanis. And
yeah,
Australia, again, there are certain suburbs where the government has hosted these. Pakistan has a lot of refugees as well. I'm sure
yeah,
India has the same, the Rangian
yeah,
refugees and all. So every country does their bit. But again, sensitization, the values, that's missing. And
yeah.
what I believe is that the SDGs, in some way, they provide a common language. So in a
Hmm.
way, it's a language that tells you, hey, this is the basic human rights charter, okay, which is followed by 139 countries around the world. It's adopted. They're also, so it's not a state telling you to do something. It's not your
Hmm.
father or your mother saying something. It's not your religion saying something. It's something that's universal, which is for universal good. So that is what the SDGs give us. They give us a universal language.
Hmm.
And that is why I
Right.
believe it's important to promote that language. And it's a common language that is understood by people across the world.
Yeah.
So, and it can help to sensitize students. Like I said, a simple science experiment of a water filter made that child think about, dirty water that people may be drinking in poor or countries. So
Yeah.
I know
Do
I
you
go
think
on and
the
on
yeah?
things, so just stop me when you feel.
No, no, it's completely fine, ma'am. It's very
Yeah.
insightful, and the reality of it. A lot of people do not actually realize there's a lot of superficial. Like you said, there are personal goals of people, but there is a lot of superficial things that are happening around us. But we tend not to pay attention. Like a smallest thing that I was reading about it somewhere, that emails also have a carbon footprint, and this was a pretty old news, but when you actually keep researching about it, is
Yeah.
shocking to a point that you
Yeah.
could just probably just stop rather than writing an email, because
Yeah.
that one email would leave a very big footprint behind, and we are exchanging thousands of emails, and kind of contributing to the climatic change, even the smallest of the things that we need to really get into it. And not a lot of people, there are conversations, of course, there are stakeholders that are talking about it, but it has to be on the bigger level that you and I and all of us should be working towards. You are already doing it on your level, and I think we should all join that cause for a better good. And
Yes,
yeah,
no, definitely. I'm sure you're doing a bit in your own way, and we're all doing a small bit. And just so everyone knows, I basically also head a consultancy, EduServe, and that is
yeah,
consultancy I started in England while I was in England, and just started it in between jobs as a forum for me to engage in activities that I love to do. So I use that forum to be part of the United Nations Association in England, participated in different gender workshops or presentations and stuff. So yes, I think we all can do something for the skills that we have. There's a very popular term that's used here in Australia. I'm saying Australia because I haven't seen that used that much in our part of the world, like in South Asia. Transferable skills. We all have transferable
Oh,
skills, right? So you may be a good communicator, you may be a good, a writer, or you may have great drafting skills or copywriting skills or designing, so whatever. These are skills. A skill set can also be transferred to another job, any other
right.
job that may require the same skills, and that's a very important way of looking at things. So we need to look at our skills and see what is it that I have, and what is it I enjoy doing, and what is it that maybe I can use one of my skills to make a change in the world. What is my contribution? I think that's it. I think that's important to see as well. Yeah.
Yeah. You're also working as an international relations and education communication officer at Western Sydney University. Do tell us about this as well.
This is a very different role from the UN, but it
Yeah.
has again to do with foreign arrangements. The role is I'm part of a team that educates the university staff in about the latest government directives about how do we engage with foreign and international partners.
Okay.
So basically, being more aware of any concerns that may be at national level, any security concerns, confidentiality concerns. It could be compromise of our research integrity, and compromise of data and all those things. So while so that's my role basically. So I educate and train staff. I develop training materials for them, and we have information sessions about what is the government legislation, what is the Australian government saying. Every
Okay.
every state, every government in the world will have its own national policy. They have a foreign policy. So it is working very closely with Department for Foreign Affairs and Trade in Australia. So there are, of course, some UN sanctions and others. But besides that, we just encourage the staff to have a more risk-aware culture, to be more aware of the
Okay.
kind of potential risks or harms that can come across, they may come across, that can impact on their own personal safety, the safety of any of their staff, their team members, or even a research project that they're engaged in. So yeah, that's the kind of role I'm in. It's different, it's very
Yeah.
interesting, and it's a very important and significant role as well. Yeah,
That sounds very dynamic also.
it
Because,
is.
yeah, on a very lighter note, last but not the least, I would really like to ask you to give, or probably something that, some advice that has actually stood by you all this while, that you would really try to tell our audience and would, give our audience that advice.
Mhm. Um, thanks for giving me that opportunity, firstly. And like I said, my advice is just be human and appreciate humanity and be kind. I think that it really encompasses so many things in just that. Being a good human means you're taking care of not just your family, you also need to take care of yourself. It's about self-care as well. The family, your loved ones, people around you, humanitarian. So just care about your neighbor, just ask them how they are. We are so busy in our lives, we hardly know who's living in a neighborhood. We hardly even say hello to them. We are traveling in a bus, on a train, we are all busy on our phones and iPods. I think that's the biggest menace that society has now. Earlier people would chat, they would make connections. So now it's really about making human connections and valuing those connections, because we can't live in a cyber world. We just cannot.
Yeah.
It's a fake world. And if we do that, we're just living in a vacuum. and
Yeah.
that's no way to grow, really. So I would just, I think that's the simplest message I can give is just be human, care, be kind, be peaceful, do what you like to do, sort of this, there's this saying, I think, I'm not sure who that person is, but open your arms to change, but don't let go of your values. Change is important. We all have to change. It's all part of the evolutionary process. We have to mutate as, biological beings even to survive in this world. But your values keep you grounded. And I think that is very important in every part of the world. I'm sure every mother, every household which teach the same thing. Care for your plants, care for your pets, care for your neighbors, look after yourself, good healthy habits. That's all. It's the basics, really. And we have just moved far away from that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wish we could just sit and ponder and just think about what we are doing and how we can make
Mm.
ourselves better. Yeah.
I think we actually don't know at this point who the neighbor is, what are they going through. Or I don't think that is anymore. Even as an individual, I'm admitting to it that I really don't know what is happening because
Exactly.
we are so busy with the goals that we have to achieve, so busy with our professional front and personal life that we actually, as a community, I think we really need to get back to the original values of building a household around us rather than just just our family. I think we should do
Exactly.
that.
Exactly. In fact, there was an old saying that says, it takes a village to raise a child. And if you just think about that, it's not a South Asian thing. I heard it from someone from the Western side, from the Western culture. It's everywhere. You actually need a village to raise a child because you need that community feeling. You need that
Yeah.
community responsibility and, all that. And that is what we are missing. And we need to take care of this world together. We can't do it alone.
Yeah.
Nobody can, do anything on their own. So it's all about interdependency as well and respect. Respect is so important.
You. Thank you so much for your time. It has been an honor, really.
Thank you. Thank you, Shruti. It was a pleasure meeting you and your very thoughtful questions and it was a lovely conversation to have. Something, to talk about passion, about what I do and what I believe in. Thank you for giving me that opportunity. And I hope that it has been useful and anything I say would be useful for you.